Hello and welcome to the Parent and NI podcast, where we get together each month with some of our staff, but most importantly with parents to discuss a topic of interest. And this month it's all about dads, because we're just coming out of Men's Health Week, and also as this is going out it will be Father's Day as well, so happy Father's Day to you all. And what have we got coming up for you in this month's episode? Well, we'll be having a bit of a chat with Conor Murray, who is the coordinator of our Dads project, so he'll tell you more about that and the recent residential that the dads had, which included chats from Conor McCafferty at Zest, healing the hurt of self-harm and suicide, and Glenn Hinds, who's a motivation and coaching consultant. So we'll be having a bit of a chat with them on this episode, as well as talking to some of the dads about what that residential meant to them. So yes, thank you for listening. Please do continue, if you're listening on Apple Podcast, to subscribe, rate and review on there, as that's really helpful with the visibility. And we're also on Spotify now, so if that's where you get your podcasts, you can get us there each month. Thanks again and enjoy this month's episode. We're up in Derry and you've got lovely weather, Cahir.
Isn't it?
It's held off.
Yes.
It was raining when I was travelling up here now, but it's not too bad.
One of the nice things about today is, and you can't plan for this, is the fact that the weather is great.
Yeah.
And for many of the dads that are attending here today, as well, is that it's in a place where it's very peaceful, and it's very tranquil, and it's at the other side of the Peace Bridge in Derry, Londonderry, whichever you want to sort of refer
Stroke
to.
City.
Stroke City. So it gives dads the opportunity to visit the city itself, but yet be out of the city, and be in a place where they can enjoy what's around them as well as what's going on and what's planned for today.
Yeah,
which is
so
nice.
We're in St Column's Park House in Derry, Londonderry, as Cahir says, and I'll give you a wee bit of an introduction, Cahir.
Yes.
You are the coordinator of our Dads project, and what we're doing here this weekend is we've got a residential for some of the dads that are involved with the project, and we've got lots of stuff going on for them. It's all about their well-being, and actually when people will be listening to this, it'll be Father's Day, so we'll say happy Father's Day to everybody listening as well.
I think so, yes. I think, and isn't it important just to acknowledge that?
Absolutely,
Of course, happy Father's Day to you listening, the listeners.
Yeah.
Really important, so
yeah.
it is.
So that's really what it's all about, Cahir, isn't it?
Yes.
Exploring the positives of dads.
And I guess, it's very important, as Emma has said too, that the residential that we've planned here in Derry, Londonderry, Stroke City this weekend is about bringing fathers as dads, but men as dads as well, along for a bit of respite, where they're able to press the pause button in what's going on in their lives, and for practitioners to come along today and talk to them about their self-care, and also to acknowledge the important role that they play as dads and as fathers. Really, really important. Mm-hmm. Because as a dad, myself, I know that many dads don't really stop and think about those things. No. What we do is we just keep going and we keep doing things, and the expectations that are there, well, we're there and we try and meet them. So this weekend is about getting the dads to stop and point out all of those real positive traits that they have, all of the good ways that they actually interact with their children, mm-hmm. and also as men looking at themselves and how they can look after themselves a wee bit better, because they're good and they're really good at what they do.
Yeah. And would you say that's something that is changing now, Cahir? You've been working with dads for a long time. Are we about a year into the Dads project, roughly?
Interestingly, it's funny that because this time last year, and I was speaking with one of the dads who I met this time last year, and it was actually Father's Day last year whenever I met one of my first dads in Derry at an event that was organised in the City Hotel, where I took my children along to a Father's Day event in the morning. And I met with another dad there and his 3 children. And yesterday, whenever I was speaking with this particular dad, we acknowledged that it was exactly this time a year ago whenever the project really started to look at what we were looking to do, mm-hmm. With dads. And as he has said, look, in a year we've done so much with dads in Belfast and Derry and the surrounding areas. And whenever you stop and look at it like that, I mean, it is amazing just how much that the project has itself grown, and how it's taken off.
So Dad's project's been going a year, but you've been working with parents and dads for longer than that. So would you say, and even as a dad yourself, that things are starting to change slightly in terms of how people view, well, men and dads, you know, the roles maybe slightly. Even I think back to whenever I was a child, my dad was the breadwinner, he was out, you know, earning the money. But now a lot of my friends who are having children and things, the men are far more actively taking part in children's sort of upbringing. Do you think that the perceptions of men are starting to slowly change?
I think the perception of dads are starting to change. The perceptions of men, it's still very much the same. So it is, and I would make a clear distinction in the two. But certainly the role of a dad today is one now that's been acknowledged as being something that is very important. And you'd see it on the media now, even a lot of adverts that are on TV, you see dads with their children as well. I mean, you're walking down the street now and there's more and more dads that are dummies in the mouth, pushing the pram, holding the wee one under the arms, you know, multitasking as they're going along. And it's great to see it, so it is. But certainly roles have changed, I agree there. And yeah, I mean, I think that I've been working now with Parenting NI for quite a number of years as a trainer previously, and then as a coordinator of the Dads Project. And many of the dads that I worked with in the past, it was very difficult to engage them and get them to come along, whereas now in 2019 it just seems as if it's more acceptable. Men particularly are accepting the fact that it's okay to open up and talk about things. And the Dads Project, it has come at a really crucial time in the sense that men are more open to coming along to the project and to engage in the services that it's actually offering now.
That's fantastic, because I mean you do hear an awful lot in the media, and we know from statistics that there are an awful lot of men who are really struggling, you know, in terms of mental health and suicide and things like that, particularly here in Northern Ireland. So it's fantastic that men and dads, because it's dads that we're working with, are, you know, more open to maybe reaching out for that help and support. And obviously we would be encouraging that if there are any men listening who would maybe like to come along to any of the Dads Project activities to get in touch with us.
Yes, I think that's really important there, Emma, you know, that it's okay to reach out. I mean, it's actually a sign of strength if you as a dad are finding things difficult. And you know what, I mean, I've never met a perfect dad. I've never met somebody that is perfect at it. Certainly a lot of dads pretend that they're managing okay, but they're not. And I think that it's actually okay to reach out and get a wee bit of support. And that's what the Dads Project is offering now. And we do that through emotional and social support particularly. But yeah, going back to what we were saying earlier too, you know, I mean, the 1950s, the 1970s, all that era was very much about me as a guy, me as a man going out working, earning a living, coming home, supporting the family. We were talking about the extended family, we were talking about mum and dad together. That's all changing now. So the role of dads and men is changing. And moving into this new century, where we're in 2019 now, dads now are beginning to feel that it is okay to take on that role where they become the stay-at-home dad, even, you know, while mum goes out and works. Because as long as, they're able to look after the wee ones, then that's perfectly okay. And so society is accepting that more. But yet, at the same time, even if you're staying at home, you might still be struggling with things. And so you should reach out. You know, you should ask for a bit of support.
Funny, one of my, she's a friend of mine, and she actually appeared on an earlier episode of the podcast. Her husband, she owns her own business, and her husband stays at home and looks after their 2-year-old. And she was saying in that earlier episode that it's funny because that was a decision they made together as a family, but that she found it very awkward when people used to be like, oh wow, like he's taken that on like that. She's like, well, he is her father, like that's okay for him to do that, so it's funny how it's changing, and people, you see more dads maybe
Attitudes are changing,
that,
yes. Attitudes.
but people
yes.
still kind of find it like
I
a
think
weird
I think
thing.
it's more the older generation that would still have the stereotype, whereas a dad is the role where I go out and I work, I provide for the family, I protect, all of that. I mean, dad can still do that
Absolutely,
by staying
yeah.
at home and looking after children. I have someone that's very close to me, and he's a stay-at-home dad as well. And the interesting thing is that whenever we're out sociably, and of course whenever you get a lot of men together, they're all saying, so what's work like, what are you doing, all those sorts of questions. And they come round to this guy and they're all, so what are you at now? And he turns around and he would say, I'm a stay-at-home dad. And they're all, really?
Yeah.
Fabulous, but it's just being able to say that now and feel confident saying that. Whereas in the past, dads probably would have shied away from it. So yeah, look, things are changing. But we need to still keep working at that. So we do. Mum's roles are crucial. Mum's roles are really important. And I wouldn't diminish from that in any way by saying anything. It's really important, the role that a mum takes on. But likewise, dad can also provide a very, very important role with the children too, in a different way.
Yeah.
And support mum. And that's what the project does with a lot of the dads we're working with. Working with the fathers and the dads that are on the dads project, it's about acknowledging what's really difficult for them at the moment, but also acknowledging how they can maybe relate better to their ex-partners or their ex-wives, and how they can try and work together for the benefit of the children.
Yeah.
And that's really about what we're trying to achieve, in those ways.
I suppose we should say that as well. I mean, we've talked about the Dads Project, primarily the focus of the Dads Project is supporting separated fathers, even though we're looking at it in a wider context.
In a generic way, yes.
And supporting all dads and focusing on the importance of dads. As Cahir says, we know from research that when dad's involved, there are better outcomes for children.
Just to say to you, it's only started, and while Emma and I are both talking about this at the moment, there are 19 dads sitting in a room downstairs interacting with a practitioner who is talking to them about themselves, their well-being, how they look after themselves, and their mental health.
Yeah.
All really, really important things. And up until now, many people would say, you're not going to get a group of dads or men together in a group to talk about these things. Well, we've done it. Yeah. It's happening right now as we're speaking, so it is.
Well, thanks for having a chat with me, Cahir, and all the best with the rest of today.
Yes, let's hope it goes good.
Yeah. So I'm delighted to be joined now by Conor McCafferty, who works for Zest, an organisation up here in Derry. And would you maybe like to tell us a wee bit about what Zest does, Conor?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for asking me to speak about it. Zest, Healing the Hurt is the full title. We started 23 years ago as suicide awareness. It was volunteers for a couple of years. And then there were some social workers come in to work afternoons on the project. And they noticed at that time a lot of the young people leaving care to go into independent living were self-harming. And some of them had gone on to complete suicide. So the focus of the organisation then changed and it became Zest, Compassion for Life was the original name, where young people leaving care, we would see them. Those that were self-harming, the focus became self-harm. And we'd see them and help them make that transition with the leaving and aftercare family teams in the town. Then around the year 2000, we realised not everybody had a passion for life. So we changed. The bulk of our work was helping people deal with the hurt that they'd experienced in life. So the bulk of our work became Healing the Hurt. And we got funding from Children in Need for 8 years, I think. It was really, really good. Tudor Trust, and I was funded by the department as a provincial outreach counsellor, and then as a result of our work, there was the Suicide Strategy Protect Life 1 identified 2 pilot schemes. One was Lifeline, the 24/7 helpline. The other was Shine, the self-harm interagency network. It was tendered here in the West. We won it. We won the tender, and we piloted it for 8 years. The longest pilot ever. It was so successful, it just kept going year after year after year. And it was after an episode of self-harm or attempted suicide, they would be referred to us by the adult mental health team, and we would do counselling with them, and it was really successful, very, very successful. So then it was decided in Protect Life 2 that this would be rolled out provincially, and it became known as SHIP, the Self-Harm Intervention Programme. Keeps changing names, everything keeps changing names. So we now, I coordinate that service in the West and the North. It's the same thing after an episode of self-harm, but it now works from 11 years up. We now work with the CAMS teams, and it's really, and it's, I mean, it's one of the most frightening things now, Emma, is young people looking to die, you know, very young people, self-harming or looking to die, losing hope, that sense of hopelessness. I mean, it's the one thing in my over 20 years doing this work is really frightening now compared to what it used to be. You know.
You think there's definitely been a real
increase
then? Yeah.
And one of the things, I mean, we look at it in terms of increase, but we're encouraging people to come and talk.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know if there's been a huge increase in the behaviour or whether the behaviour is always there. People are just more willing to come now and talk.
Yeah.
When I started out, it was 3 times more women than men self-harmed. Currently, it's 3 times more men than women that complete suicide. But self-harm now is almost 50-50. I think there's only 4 or 5% difference between, still predominantly female and male. I think it's 52-48 maybe, but the figures are like,
kind of
but
balanced up.
so there's more men coming now for help.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, you know, it's to see that, it's brilliant. You know, I suppose that's the point of why I'm here today.
Yeah.
I mean, I do a lot of training, commissioned to do training for statutory and voluntary groups, and maybe a maximum of 30 in the if we would train the participants. There's always 27, 28 women and 3 men or 2 men. Every time you kind of think, is there any men working these ages?
Yeah.
They just avoid emotion, and if you mention emotion, anything involves emotion, not there. They actually walk into a room today with over 20 men. It was amazing, you know, and just to hold them there for the 2 hours and talk about the simplicity of emotional health. You see, it's complicated. We're born, it's a system, it's a natural, it's actually a law of the body. We're born with it. The first thing, you know, when we're born is we cry. Boys and girls alike, nobody's too embarrassed about it. And I think my theory is, you know, we cry because we can't speak. We can't talk, so we let people know, I'm in bother here, I'm sick, or I'm pain, or I'm hungry, or I'm wet, or we let the big people know there's a problem. But once we start talking, the big people think, well, you shouldn't be crying anymore. And they don't realise that crying is also a response to sadness, a response to trauma, it can be a response to excitement and success and joy. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it's an emotional response, and we're told, I'll give you something to cry about, especially the boys. You shouldn't be crying, grow up and be a man. At 4 and 5 and 6 years. So we start to think, well, it's wrong to cry. And that's once we think that's when the problems start.
And that's something that we were talking about earlier with Cahir in terms of, and you've mentioned that yourself, you know, maybe it's not that things are starting to change. Hopefully there is a bit of a societal shift now in how people think about men and men's roles within society, and that they're allowed to feel emotional. That's absolutely okay. But maybe it is that more men are okay to reach out for support now, and that's something that's fantastic if that is the case.
It really is. And I mean, that's what men are starting to realise, that the stereotypes are nonsense. You know, I mean, I was watching the final of the European Cup last week's Liverpool and Spurs, and the Spurs team were all crying because they lost, and the Liverpool team were all crying because they won. And it was brilliant. And the fans were crying that lost, and the fans that won were crying. And I mean, I remember in the 90s, Paul Gascoigne cried during a match because he had got a yellow card. He was missing the next match. And the minute he started crying, Gary Lineker pointed to the manager and pointed to the head to say he's losing his mind. They went on to put him in an advertisement for potato crisps crying. They made a puppet out of him crying for spitting images. And I mean, you see him now, he's a dead man walking, just riddled with alcoholism. And this is the thing, you know, they just humiliated him for crying. And that's the way it was. You know, it's changing, but there's still that...
So stereotypes are still there. But,
especially the ones that haven't reached that point yet where they can cry will mock the ones that do and make them out to be. But that's a defence mechanism, you know. That's really, there's a jealousy in that because it's the law of the body. It's not a case that we shouldn't be doing it. It's the way we're made. The thought creates the feeling, creates the behaviour. It comes 1, 2, 3. If I have very sad thoughts, I will feel sad. And the behaviour might be crying, but it'll be a sad behaviour. What happens here is if you listen to young men that die by suicide, happy as Laurie, loads of friends, having a ball, just having a great time. That's not, when they go home, the false face comes off and the wee sad person comes out. So they flip it. When they're having the thoughts and the sad feeling, they flip it to be really happy. And they go out and pretend and behave happy and everybody thinks they're happy. But they're actually flipping. It's called reaction formation in psychology terms, where you pretend to be the complete opposite of how you feel.
Yeah, and that was something that I think your talk was entitled today, being a real man. I've put that in inverted commas. So maybe if you wouldn't mind giving the listeners a bit of a insight into just some takeaways maybe from that talk.
Well, probably a very succinct one is, it's called congruence. To be a real person, it's what I say and do is what I think and feel. That's real. What we do here a lot of the time is incongruence. Is what I say and do is what I think you want me to say and do. I'll be the person you want me to be. But if it's not who we really are, Emma, it causes emotional distress. If we're pretending, we can pretend to a point, and it's usually between the ages of 35 and 50. Middle adulthood, we kind of get tired pretending. That's when it all starts to break down. And we're starting to see that now in suicide statistics. That level's starting to rise in those age groups for men. But it's that thing of what I say and do is what I think and feel, that I allow this thought, the feeling and the behaviour to come, and it's really who I am. Now if the thoughts, if they're very, very sad or whatever, we have to share them with somebody that will allow us to do that. This is why a bestie, a BFF is just brilliantly. You know, it doesn't have to be counselling. We always think, oh, you need counselling. You don't need counselling. You need to be able to emote. Emotion means movement out. We need to be able to sit with somebody and say, here's how I really feel. Here's what it feels like for me today. And when we do that, then the feeling emotes, it moves out. What happens here is, I shouldn't be feeling. The minute we think I shouldn't be feeling this, then we need to do stuff to take the feeling away. And what are we famous for? Drinking and fighting. Do you know, and we are famous for it as a nation. Now, how emotionally healthy is that? But it can be sex, it can be gambling, it can be drink, it can be drugs, it can be work. I mean, work's not addictive, but it can be. Shopping's not addictive, but it can be. Eating's not addictive, but it can. Chocolate's not addictive. If we want to feel different, because we don't like the way we feel. Unfortunately, the law of the body, we have to feel what we feel. And we have to look at it, well, are the thoughts faulty that are causing this feeling? I mean, if I think I'm stupid or useless and feel ashamed of myself, where did that thought come from? Is it true? 99 times out of 100, it's not true. We believe a lie. I mean, therefore the feeling's a lie and the behaviour's a lie. So we have to go back to, I mean, I'm over 20 years in self-harm. I've never been able to stop anybody self-harming in all that time. If that's what I tried to do. And I did, to my shame, that's what I tried to do at the start. Because that was the instructions, get them to stop. And it was just through listening that I realised, and learning and supervision and all the things in the early years, that if I could help a person change the way they think and feel, their behaviour changed. But what happens now, somebody comes out of hospital, look what you're doing to your mammy, look what you're doing to your family, look what you're doing. Nobody's saying, what are you doing to yourself? It's called self-harm, because you do it to yourself. Nobody's saying, come here to me. Oh my goodness, come here to me, what can I do to help you? Everybody gets angry because they love the person and they're frightened. And rather than saying, if anything happened to you, it would break my heart, we get angry, we ignore the feelings and we just let it turn to anger and start barging, and the person closes down and says, well, I'll never do that again. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's that. No, I don't know what come over me, and then they close it. But then the next it'll come round again because they weren't allowed to deal, they weren't given the space. They say, come here to me, tell me what's wrong, what can I do to help, who do we need to see? That's the response. Compassion is the answer to this. People say to me, how do you do it, and how smart, and what exams do you... It's compassion and kindness. It opens that door that allows the person to tell. It allows the person to say, here's what it's really like to be me, that nobody knows. Here's the person that sits in the room on their own at night, hurting and thinking and negative, you know.
Yeah.
And then you say, right, what do we need to do?
Yeah. So it's nice to kind of have, I suppose, spaces like this weekend, where,
this is brilliant.
and particularly for men to come together and be able to, as you say, just talk.
And it was amazing towards the end. Once we were, I was only supposed to, I thought it was an hour and a half, actually 2 hours, near 2.5 hours. But they were all starting to ask questions then, and they were all starting to communicate with each other. And that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. If I could take, there's a phrase in everybody, what will people think if I could take that phrase out of everybody's head? My goodness, my goodness. But we have to behave to make other people happy. No.
Yeah,
this is about being, and it's for men especially, we have to take responsibility for ourselves. We have to stop blaming and pointing and going on and minimising and victimising. We have to take responsibility for our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviour. You know, in a healthy way, for our physical health and our mental health.
Thanks very much for talking to me today,
it's been
Conor.
a pleasure.
Thank you, appreciate it. I think you can actually nearly maybe hear me trying to contain my excitement at Conor mentioning Liverpool winning the Champions League. Yeah, come on the Reds 6 times. No, but seriously, great conversation to have there with Conor. Speaking as someone who's always been really interested in how society constructs our sort of gender stereotypes, or what's seen as kind of gender normal, and that's coming from me, who is not a typical kind of girl, I guess, in terms of how people perceive what it is to be feminine. So I mean, I like football. I don't really like going and getting my nails done or going shopping for clothes or shoes, and I don't wear pink, apart from at one of my best friend's wedding, and it was lovely, to be fair, but you know what I mean. I'm not a typically girly girl, but does that make me any less of a woman? Well, no, it doesn't, just as it wouldn't make a man any less of a man for not liking football or for wearing pink, those kind of things. And at the end of the day, when you take all those kind of ridiculous stereotypes out of the equation, we're all human. And of course we all feel emotion. That's a totally normal part of human experience. So yeah, I mean, really interesting conversation with Conor there. And I think it's particularly important as we come out of Men's Health Week here, that, you know, we do challenge those stereotypes of men, so that they do feel more confident and more comfortable about coming forward when they are struggling. I'm delighted to be joined by Glenn Hinds here today, who is also talking to our dads. Do you want to tell us a wee bit about what you do, first of all, Glenn?
Well, primarily what I do is I do a lot of training and coaching with individuals and organisations, primarily in the health and social care field, and education, criminal justice, working with organisations around well-being of staff, and seeing the organisation as the entity of the organisation as an individual, and looking after the well-being of the organisation as well.
Fantastic. And so one of the things that you're really going to be talking to dads here today about is kind of where they're at and on their journey.
Sure.
And motivational interviewing is another thing that you are a practitioner in.
Yes.
So maybe tell us a wee bit about that and how maybe we can use the principles of that just in life and in general.
So motivational interviewing for most people would be seen as what's called a counselling style but underneath it, it would be informed by what's called person-centered helping, the work of Carl Rogers, and some of the key principles of that would be that when someone is trying to be helpful to someone else, that if they can approach it from a position where they're trying to understand the other person, the individual that they're talking to, trying to understand the world from their perspective. Very often what happens is when people start to talk about their problems, people like us try to make them better, try to solve them, because we can see it from a different perspective. And it's recognising that the perspective that we most often see it, I suppose one of the ways to consider it is it's a bit like Google Maps. For most people, we look at the world and we can see it from a satellite view. I can see your world from a satellite view, and I can just give you some directions. Just turn right, turn left, turn right, turn left, and you'll be where you're going. Whereas what motivational interviewing does in person-centered helping recognises, yes, we can see the global map, but to be helpful, I must go down to street view. And I need to walk this journey with you, because what isn't available in the global map, global overview, is the restrictions and the difficulties of real life. So by walking along, I can see that maybe there's a roadblock that isn't on the map, and I have to help you navigate that. And it starts with, what if no one was to blame for the situation? What if no one was at fault? What would we see? And more often than not, what we helpers endeavour to do is because we want to be helpful, we seem to be drawn to where the problems are. So we become what's called problem focused. And what the research shows is if I'm focusing on your problems and my conversation with you is all about your problems, then all you hear yourself talk about is your problems. And then there's what's called self-perception psychology, which is I have an understanding of myself by the way I talk about myself, both to other people but also very importantly to myself. So if I'm hearing myself talk about the problems in my life, I'm reinforcing the problematic aspects of myself. Whereas what motivational interviewing and person-centered helping endeavours to do is work on what's called affirmations, which is looking at it from a strengths-based perspective, which is this individual has got this far without my help. How did they do that? And work on the resources that the individual has that has got them this far in their life to begin to help them overcome any difficulties they have now, so they can continue with their life. So it's based on a recognition that whatever else is happening in someone else's life, there is evidence of success. Because they've got this far. And very often when I'm working with helping practitioners, I invite them to look at, think of some people they work with inverted commas, whose life's in chaos, or whose life's up in Belfast terms up the left. And then I just ask them, how did they survive this long? And very important, how did they survive this long without your help? And the answer is always the client. And it's about being able to see what it is about this client that has enabled them to do that, and then to focus on that and to recognise that and to help the client begin to see that in themselves so they can begin to believe in themselves. So the way to help someone believe in themselves is for me to believe in them. And it has to be a felt experience. I have to actually believe in you for you to begin to believe in yourself. I can't tell you to believe in yourself. I have to show you my belief in you. So that would be some of the key components of a practitioner who's endeavouring to work from a person-centred or motivational interviewing perspective.
Fantastic. That sounds like something that would be really empowering for the dads here today, to kind of recognise some of those techniques, and something that we've kind of been talking about actually across this episode today is that kind of self-perception, particularly for men who have maybe been told all their lives that it's not okay to show emotion, and it's maybe quite difficult for them to reach out for that support in the first place. Would you have any sort of tips or advice in that sort of respect? Yeah,
absolutely. And I imagine that there's potentially some men in the group that would be described as empathic or empathetic, which means that they have a sensitivity to the emotional energies around them as well. And again, that's not necessarily something that we men are encouraged to acknowledge, that we become, there's actually something wrong with us if we are, inverted commas, too sensitive. We can't take the rough and tumble. But it's also recognising that there are some men like me who is an empath, and as a consequence of that, I do tune into different frequencies of conversations that makes me slightly different from other men, and that if I'm not told that that's okay, then as was the case when I was growing up, there was a sense there was something wrong with me because I wasn't like all the other people, or more particularly like all other men. The truth is, as I'm not, I have the capacity to be more sensitive, particularly to emotional energies, which is the frequency that help is asked for and help is received. So it's about helping men, not just men, but people, to recognise how you experiencing this, and whatever way you're experiencing this, that's the way you do it, and it's how can you be at peace with who you are, even though not everyone else is doing it like that, but there are other people like you or similar to you, and it's about it's interesting that we're here in St. Thomas Park House. A few years ago I used to study philosophy, and the class was here, and one of the things that Socrates teaches is the idea of keeping good company. Now, by good company, he meant anything that lifted your heart, anything that made you feel good. So, music that lifts your heart is good company. The environment, walking in a park, and that makes you feel good, that's good company. People that make you feel good, books that make you feel good, food that makes you feel good about who you are, that's all good company. And the idea is keep good company. Whatever makes you feel good about yourself is the stuff that you need to spend more time around, and anything that you find that distracts from that is potentially not so good company, and it's about how to support yourself, spend less time in not so good or bad company, and about finding that balance for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. That's some really good advice. That's a nice positive actually to maybe finish our conversation on. Thanks very much, Glenn, for taking some time to chat to me.
Yeah, well, I'm delighted to have had a chance to talk to you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
So Paul is the key worker in the Dads Project, and Morris and Oliver, two dads attending here this weekend. So thanks for taking the time to come and chat to me out of your weekend.
Okay.
So maybe tell me a wee bit about what you're hoping to get from this weekend, or how it feels being here with a group of other dads.
It feels good. I mean, it's an extension in a way of the support groups, which we attend on and off. But it's really just linking in with other dads, reaching out to them as well, contributing and listening, sharing experiences. But it's also about downtime. There's a social element to it. It's where you can sort of take yourself away from your everyday life just for 24 hours and just really be yourself, because it's an opportunity which I would guess a lot of us just don't get all that often.
I would agree with that for definite, but I also like the mental health side of it, because it helps you kind of realise you're not the only one in this position.
Yeah.
There's a lot of followers, even in worse positions than yourself, that you never even thought of.
Yeah, it's that kind of peer support type
It
thing
does,
where you think,
it really helps.
Yeah.
It's reaching out just, and if you do reach out, it does help.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That's for definite.
That's something that we were talking about earlier in the recording here, about how perceptions are kind of starting to change with men and dads, and that it's okay. Like, you know, a lot of times maybe men feel like they can't express their emotions.
Funny.
Would you agree with that?
Funny,
Like,
me and Morris were sitting talking about that at lunchtime.
Yeah.
About this time 3-4 years ago, I was at a really bad stage.
Yeah.
But reaching out at that time, I didn't originally go to the Dads Project or Parent NI. I went to Men's Action Network, because it was the only position I knew at that time in Derry.
Yeah.
But that helped me to open up and get past that and realise, that's what I was saying to Morris, now there's no stigmata with it anymore. People are kind of more willing and open and honest to talk far easier.
That's brilliant.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, there's never been a greater emphasis on mental health these days anyway, even more emphasis than there was 10 years ago. It's also becoming much less taboo. There's still some way to go with that, and some people are just born to be able to talk about their feelings easier than others, but in my own experience, when you talk about how you feel, everything starts to slot into place after that. Things become easier. You mightn't choose to tell everyone, and that's fair enough, but one or two really trusted people close to you. To coin the old phrase, a problem shared is a problem halved, very much so.
Yeah.
And well, at the start, I went to a counsellor because I just couldn't open up to anybody. But now I can find I can open up to anybody.
Yeah.
So definitely, it's the first step.
And Paul, maybe you could give us some insight into the work that goes on within the Dads
Yeah.
Project. So Morris and Oliver are saying there about going along to the support groups and things like
Mhm.
that. And maybe if a dad is kind of, because that can be quite daunting, I think. I mean,
It is.
for anybody to go initially
Mhm.
and kind of talk about their own experiences and what they're going through.
Yeah. Without a doubt, it is probably daunting. I suppose what I would say to them is, don't worry. Every dad there understands exactly what you're going through. They've probably been through many of the same things that you're going through. They've shared a lot of the same experiences. So don't put yourself under any extra pressure. Feel safe there. And if you don't want to talk, that's okay.
Mhm.
Some of the dads are, as Oliver and Morris have said, they'll understand. That time will come whenever you are able to share your experiences and you have built that trust. But you can still avail of sharing other people's experiences, so you can.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest thing that we would hear whenever people do attend a support group, or one of the first things that we would hear, I thought I was the only one. There's a real sense of isolation with dads and with dads that are maybe struggling, or dads that have been separated. So that there in itself is hugely reassuring. Whenever you walk in a room and you see, like, flip, I'm not the only one. There's other people going through this.
Yeah, it's a real weight off your shoulders type thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what about yourselves, Oliver and Morris? Would you have any maybe advice or tips that you would give, just if someone's maybe thinking, say somebody's listening to this and thinking, I am struggling a wee bit?
Just get involved.
Yeah.
Come along. It's non-judgmental and it's open to absolutely everyone. Don't delay or think about it. Just come along. You'll be welcomed warmly. And yeah, you'll get benefit from it, I guarantee it.
I would second that for definite. It's the initial taking that first step, and even now at the minute I'm talking to a few followers that I'm saying come along with me, because I think it is that first step. I actually go now because it's more like social kind of now, because you can actually chat and you start to get to know some of the followers that I'm going because they are. It's becoming more and more people's actually returning all the time, and it's not like what it used to be with men. You came once and disappeared. It's changed.
The social element of this is starting to pick up now more and more. This is the second or third event that we've held, and certainly looking forward to any future ones there'll be.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I take away.
Yeah.
I mean, it can only time away to sort of think about yourself and just chat informally and associate others can only be a good thing. It's rather this, than sitting in the house on your own at a weekend. Definitely.
Well, that's what I was going to say too. What parent and I have taught me, it's self-care. When you're able to look after yourself, you're able to look after others, even your own children, better too. So
No, absolutely. And Paul, maybe if anyone's thinking that they would like to come along or find out more about the Dads Project,
You can check out the Parenting and I website.
Yeah.
So you can, all of the information is on there. The phone number is there as well.
Yeah.
Some people are better talking, and there's an email address as well. What I would say is just don't be afraid. Every dad has been through difficult situations, and some are still going through difficult situations. So just a phone call can't hurt. And especially with a licensed support group, there's no commitment.
Yeah.
You're not going to be under any pressure. And as Morris has already said, you're going to be welcomed. So we are. So just reach out because we're there.
Yeah. And the support groups run once a
Monthly.
month? Yeah.
There's one in Belfast and then there's one in Derry. So depending on where you live, it might be better suited to attend one than the other.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. I think you've
Thank you
music
very
and
much.
all later on, so that'll be great crack. Enjoy it, and thank you for taking time out to talk to me. Appreciate it.
Okay.
So there we go, folks. That's us for another month. Thank you very much for listening, and a special thanks to Oliver and Morris there for sharing their views, and also to Conor and Glenn and Cahir and Paul for getting involved in this month's episode 2. So obviously we've talked a lot about dads and men in this episode, and if there's anything that's come up that you're thinking, yeah, actually I do need a bit of help and a bit of support in my parenting role as a dad, then please do get in touch with us. You can check out our website, as Paul said. It's www.parentingni.org/dads project. We do have a free phone number as well, which you can call to maybe get a little bit more information. It's 0808 8010 722. And just to say as well, our social media channels, particularly this week, because it has been Men's Health Week, has been focused on tips for men around mental health, and also some just nice little positives around the important role that dads play in their children's lives. So you can check us out on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. We're just Parenting NI, or at Parenting NI on all those platforms. And yes, once again, happy Father's Day. Enjoy your day, and whatever you're up to, just take time for you and celebrate you as a dad, and enjoy it. And we'll see you again next month. Next month we're talking about holiday boredom. So actually we'd quite like to get you involved with this one. And we're going to be talking about, as the children get off for school, things to maybe combat children telling you that they're bored continuously over the summer holidays. So we want to try and get as many ideas as possible of different things that you can do with the kids. And we're going to look at play as well. So we've got our friends from Playboard talking on that too. So yeah, if you want to get involved, drop us comments on our socials, as I said. And yeah, we'll look forward to chatting to you next month. All the best and take care of yourselves. Bye.